Maybe I can get your reaction to this absolutely horrendous story about saying there are so many warning signs about an asylum seeker posing as a child before murdering an aspiring Marine. This is how on earth a violent Afghan asylum seeker entered the country before murdering someone who wanted to be a Royal Marine. The aspiring Royal Marine was just 21. He was stabbed to death by the Afghan man who had previously shot 2 migrants with a Kalashnikov in Serbia while travelling to the UK. Robert, what do you make of this?
Indeed, this is a problem. It's something that is all too common, and not just affecting this country. At a diversity celebration in Germany, of course, another knife-wielding maniac, reportedly inspired by ISIS, was, of course, killed people. This is often happens, and indeed, immigration is a matter of public safety. It's not just about economics or about the cultural implications or, of course, the pressure on public services and raising the house prices, rising beyond what people can reach, raising rents because of so much demand, and of course supply can never keep up. There's also public safety attitudes, and we know that certain groups go in for certain criminal activities, and of course there are attacks on women, which have become all too frequent, which of course Talk TV has led the way on exposing and bringing to light what is going on in this country and other European countries indeed that are affected by this. But this is absolutely awful, and it's a matter of public safety, and we need to control our borders to keep people who are in this country safe. Of course, the channel was, of course, keeping out those from less happier lands. It must return to that again so that this country can be safe and secure, which is the first job of every government, to keep this country safe. But immigration is, of course, a pressure that cannot be afforded any longer.
And there's another story, Robert, today in the Daily Mail about survivors of the latest migrant disaster. This is in the Channel, have claimed that the overcrowded boat could have been sunk on purpose in order to get to Britain more quickly. Survivors have described their terror being pitched into the Channel and the horror of watching women and children drown. 12 people lost their lives, around 50 were rescued after a 26-foot-long boat overturned, and one survivor from Eritrea claimed the boat may have been deliberately sabotaged by one of the passengers, alleging this might have been done in the belief that this would see them picked up and taken to England more quickly. What on earth is going on here?
This is another aspect of the dark side of immigration, and some people may, from some backgrounds, may feel good about themselves that they support open borders while they munch on their quinoa and avocados and plan what finishing school to send their daughter in Switzerland. They may feel very good about themselves. Indeed, they're probably very enriched by the cheap labour that's coming over. But of course, what we have is the dark side of immigration, which is public safety, more knife attacks, but also people going into dreadful conditions should they make it to the UK, then exploited in the black economy. When their passports are thrown away, they are then put to work with earning below minimum wage, often in what can be described as modern slavery conditions. Or, of course, should they be dreadfully unlucky, then, of course, the journey itself may indeed kill them. Of course, you and I, if we were recklessly taking people across on boats, or going out on pedlos, for instance, and members of our family were killed, we would find ourselves on charges. And charges need to be brought here against those who are responsible. Keir Starmer, in one of his promises, promised to take use anti-terrorism legislation to tackle the people smugglers, to destroy the boat before they make the journey, not as they're making the journey, is what could have happened in this case. And also against those who have brought their children and put their children in danger. Yeah, this is absolutely despicable. What's going on, and it's all too common. It's been happening for many years, and we've seen that if we encourage people to be across, if we have the RNLI, for instance, operating as a taxi service, or indeed the Coast Guard, just as was seen in the Mediterranean with the aid agencies apparently rescuing people they would just go off outside the 12-mile limit. Aid agencies would pick them up, take them across. It actually encourages people to make the dangerous journey. And if there wasn't the help provided, they would realise that this was a cost too far, it's a danger too far, and people wouldn't make the journey. So indeed, we need to have some real tough love here against those who are responsible.
And I wonder, Robert, how that tough love actually looks and what the legislative framework should be, because Downing Street has rejected calls from the French government for the UK to strike a new asylum treaty with the EU as migrant crossings have continued. We know that 12 people died in the latest tragedy in the Channel as well, and people smugglers taking advantage of calm conditions on Wednesday. Dozens of migrants pictured being brought over to Dover. So what, in terms of the French Interior Minister, is urging stronger UK-EU cooperation to address migrant crossings. What should happen here in your view, Robert?
Well, wow, this is a slap in the face for Sir Keir Starmer. Of course, he's gone over to Europe on his charm offensive. Well, bit of a mistake, because he's a charmless man, essentially, to quote from Blur. You know, let's not give Oasis all the credit at this point in time. Really, there needs to be tough action. At the moment, we can take tough action in terms of returning people to France. France is pushing people out. These countries really do have systemic racism. They don't want these people. They're pushing them out. We need to push them back, and then we can look after those who are in this country already. We shouldn't be there. We're not there for the rest of the world. National Health Service should be a national health service, it's not there for all that can come over. We've done our bit. We've saved Europe countless times. We have taken on millions of migrants, economic migrants essentially, from Eastern Europe, from around the world. There comes a point where we are at a limit. We cannot take any more. Under existing European Union rules, the first country of entry should indeed have the responsibility for the migrants. They should be honouring that. They shouldn't be working their way over to Britain. What we also need to do is come out of the 1951 Convention on Refugees and Asylum. That needs to be done. Okay. That was created in a world where you're just taking people temporarily in light of the Second World War and waiting for justice to be restored, should it be, and then people would be able to return. There's a mass movement of people when armies really were crossing borders. Now it's a very different situation. It's all too easy for people to get here for economic purposes, and we need to actually recognise that the international laws we're operating by are not fit for purpose. It's not just a point of coming out of the European Court of Human Rights or disapplying their verdicts or rejecting the European Convention, much of which is valuable, but it's become a living document and grown out of all common sense. We need to force people back to France and say that's where you are, and we have the right to do so under existing maritime legislation, which we need to revive. And we need to be absolutely proud of our country, our maritime tradition, and use the strength and the know-how that we have to return people back to France and put the problem back to them who should have been following it should have been remedying it in the first place.
Robert Lee in South Wales has actually been in touch on what you're saying here, and he says, I love Robert, it's good to hear the truth and sense being taught, keep up the good work. So thank you, Robert, not just from me but from Lee in South Wales as well, who's texted in to say that. That's Robert Olds there, who is the chairman of the Bruges group, which is a sort of Eurosceptic group, certainly, and Robert talking a lot about immigration there.